Honestly, I think exactly that way. I think vulnerability, some people they just see it as a weakness, and I'm just like, what? It's like the most beautiful thing to be vulnerable.
Welcome to Soul Time, a show that explores the world of unlocking your unique potential. My name is Dr. Katja Markowka, and I'm a teacher at school, a former teacher at universities, and a stress and mental coach. And I'm your host. This is episode number 229, and you are listening to Soul Time, a show that is a space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with what truly matters. I'm Dr. Katja Markowka. I've been working in education for almost 25 years, first at university and now as a teacher and coach. But more than anything, I see myself as a lifelong learner, someone who is still growing, still reflecting, and still trying to understand what it really means to show up with intention, with compassion, and with clarity. And that's really what this space is all about. Every week we slow down a little and we look a little deeper and we come back to what actually matters when it comes to how we live, how we relate, and how we grow, especially when it comes to young people and the environments we create around them. Because if we want kids to win in life, we have to show them how. And today, I'm not alone. This is a
Okay.
special episode with a guest whose story carries a lot of depth, but also a lot of reflection. Her name is Helena, and Helena was born in Rio de Janeiro, and her life has taken her across countries through moments of instability, survival, resilience, and also into a very honest kind of self-reflection. What also feels important to say is that she has recently started a blog, a space where she shares parts of her own story, not just what happened, but what it meant, and how those experiences are slowly being understood, reprocessed, and turned into something that might help someone else feel less alone in their journey. And I think that's what makes today's conversation feel meaningful, because her story touches something that so many people quietly carry. What happens when children grow up emotionally aware too early in environments where emotional safety doesn't always feel predictable, and how those early experiences don't just stay in the past, but often shape the way we trust, the way we connect, how we protect ourselves, and eventually learn how to heal. And I hope you find something special for you in this conversation, in Helena's reflections, her thoughts, and the way she sees her own story. I will also leave Helena's blog and Instagram handle in the show notes. So if you feel drawn to it, you can take a look and follow along with her journey and what she is sharing. And with that, let's begin. First of all, a very warm welcome, Helena. I'm really glad that you are here today. And I'm really looking forward to this beautiful conversation and to hearing more about your personal story and your life experiences and that have shaped you and how you have been making sense of them over time. But before we go into it any further and dive deeper, I would love to begin simply by giving you some space to introduce yourself and your passion project in your own words.
Thank you so much. I am extremely excited to be here. My name is Helena, and I'm really, really excited because this has been a long due conversation, I think, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so to yeah, and so to introduce myself, I'm 43 years old. Um, I am originally from Brazil. I came to Canada when I was 11 years old. So I came to Canada and I was uh, really on my own because I came with my dad only because my mom stayed in Brazil. So my parents weren't married. They were legally married. So because of that, they couldn't come everybody together. So it was really hard for me to come to Canada. But after 8 months, my mom came here, and I'm an only child, right? So it's the life of an immigrant somewhere else, having to learn the language, having to go through the whole adaptation. It's kind of hard. So I grew, but I grew up here, and I throughout my life I was always lost, if I could tell you, trying to find who am I. Um, Always been a little bit of a everybody was like, okay, well, where are you from? I'm like, Brazil. Okay, so you speak Spanish? I'm like, no, we speak Portuguese. And so there was a lot of people that spoke Spanish, and then a lot of Latinos. And like, oh, but you're not Latina. I'm like, I am. And then having to explain myself all the time. It was hard. But with time, I made friends and grew up, and yeah, uh, had an adventure in my life. Let's just say.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And as you were speaking, Helena, I was really noticing how much reflection there already is in the way you tell your own story. And I find it very meaningful that you have started a blog, almost like you are giving language to your own experience. And what was
Yeah.
your deeper why? I'm so curious.
Yeah. So it's honestly my entire life I've been very much of a person who has been very vulnerable, and I've always uh, voiced everything. So I'm known, I'm a Gemini, so I have like two sides. I'm very much of a introvert in some ways, but in the other ways I'm such an extrovert, and I love helping people, right? So I realized, so I've worked for a financial institution for the past 20 years, and I realized recently that throughout all these years, it's funny how I changed different positions within the bank, and never really understood and found my place. But at the same time, colleagues of mine, they would always sit in my office and just like talk about, and ask for me to listen to them and just share their stories. And I was just trying to, advise them through my experiences and whatnot. And it took me all this time to realize um, that I needed to share my story, because maybe that's what I need to do, is share my story to help others who are going through the same thing. And faith has also been a huge part of it, because I've been on um, a journey, let's just say, for the past 6 months of self-discovery, and it led me to realize that I need to share my story, and that everything I've been through, it's not for nothing. It's to help others. And so that's where I came up with just starting a blog. And I think it was a friend of mine that said, Helena, you have such an interesting life. You should write a blog. I was like, what is a blog? I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, Chat GPT, what is a blog? So I started researching on how to make vlogs and stuff, and then my stories, they just started. It's really just me talking about my life, and it's also like a self therapy, because as I'm writing it, I'm just realizing so many things. Um, so that's how the vlog came to be. Yeah.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. And I personally think it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable and share your story. And I think vulnerability is not weakness. It's a really tough kind of strength.
a
And
hundred
what
percent.
is your opinion about the importance of vulnerability?
Honestly, I think exactly that way. I think vulnerability, some people they just see it as a weakness, and I'm just like, what? It's like the most beautiful thing to be vulnerable. And I think it has a lot to do also with ego, right? Like a lot of people that think
Mm,
vulnerability, oh, I don't want to be, I don't want to share my personal stuff because what are people going to think? Who cares? You don't even
mm,
know because you're focusing so much on what people are going to think versus
mm,
all the people that are you're not helping because you're withholding all this information that could help, right? So it's so important to be vulnerable because it's such a strength. You don't know what you're going through. What you don't know what you're going through can help other people. So
mm.
there's so many things that I've gone through my life that I've taken it for granted. I'm like, if I went through that, anybody can go through that. And then it took other people, even doctors, to tell me, I think you need a break. I'm like, no, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And it's like, no, you need a break, and then I realized I'm like, wait, I don't think what I'm going through is just nothing, right? And that's where I just clicked. I was like, yeah, I think, you know what? I've always been vulnerable, okay, but it's also knowing with who you're vulnerable with, right? You don't want to be
Oh,
vulnerable with the
yes.
wrong people, right? Because that's where you're going to be shut down, and then that's where you're going to be feeling like vulnerability is weakness, right? You have to be vulnerable with
Absolutely.
the right people. So that's something that's very important.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I think vulnerability doesn't mean, and that is a misconception, we have to share everything with everybody. It is a
Exactly.
conscious choice we make what we want to share with our inner circle, what we want to share with the community, and how this could possibly lead to learning experience for others, right?
100%. And I learned it also through the hard way because I've been like a person that I'm just so vulnerable to like, there's vulnerable and there's like super vulnerable. And I'm like, just like, hey, everybody, this is my story. And I've had people that have taken advantage of it, and made me
Hmm.
feel like, oh, and then self-conscious and all these things. But thankfully, I've also had great support system that has on the other side, really been my cheerleaders, let's just say, and encouraging me. I call my little angels in my life, and I'm so blessed to have so many.
That is beautiful. And I think there is another huge misconception about vulnerability. Some people think it's complaining and focusing on what's going wrong the whole time and mentioning all the struggles
Absolutely.
and being negative. But instead, I think personally, it's about being open, expressing emotions and feelings, and being willing to share both success and struggles, wins
That's so
and
important.
challenges. Yes, there is a
100%.
balance.
Yes, exactly. And I really think that in society nowadays, it's so toxic of the competition, who's better, who has more, and this and that. And the gratitude of what you have, and then being
Mm,
also vulnerable of what, okay, I failed at this. Let me share that I failed. Because failing, I have learned so much more than gaining. Because when you gain something, okay, you
mm.
gained it, yay. And then tomorrow, what's next? Right? Like it's a temporary high, right? But when you fail at something, that's when you're just like, you keep, it keeps being on your, okay, so what did I do wrong? But there's two ways, you can bash yourself and say, oh, I'm so horrible, I'm this and that. But you can also say, what is the lesson? What is the lesson? Because
Mm,
everything in your life is a lesson. There's no failure.
true.
That's something that society is like, it doesn't, it's not said openly. When you fail, people are like, oh, look at this person. Oh, what a loser. What a this.
Mm,
But it's like, no, you didn't fail. You just realized that this door, but it didn't work. But let's see why it didn't work. What did I do wrong? Okay, maybe I did this because I had to learn this lesson so that my next lesson I could then gain what I'm supposed to be gaining and where I'm supposed to be going, what my path is. So many people see life as you have to gain, I have to gain, and it's like all of gaining, gaining, gaining. But failure is like the most important part of life. If you don't know how to fail, if it's gonna
Hmm.
affect you to the point that you can't get up again, then you're not going anywhere in life. You need to be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Oh, that is beautiful. I love it. I love this
Yeah.
sentence, especially because I think every failure is a learning experience. We can adjust and find a new path, a new way of reflecting, of going forward and learning and stepping forward. That is the whole story of our life at the end of the day. And I think there is so much reflection and awareness that I feel in this conversation already. And I think I find it always interesting because not everyone reflects on a deeper level on their own experiences. And on the other hand, some people are starting to reflect very, very early in life. Especially some children become emotionally aware very early, and not because they're unusual mature or something, but because their environments requires them to constantly read the room. Helena, your childhood was not the easiest one, and you have to overcome a lot. My question is, do you feel like you became emotionally aware very early in life and that you had to learn to read the room in your childhood?
Yes, yes, yes. I think that my childhood was just very hard in the sense that I was never surrounded by children, so I had to grow up very
Hmm.
quickly. I was always surrounded by adults and adult conversation, and there was a lot of also violence. I learned an emotional maturity very early on to be strong and to protect. So the relationship with myself and my mom was very much of a I felt like I needed to protect her versus her me.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh.
and I felt like up to today, there's is this kind of feeling that I feel. But when I was a child, seeing my mom go through, domestic violence, uh, seeing, domestic violence through the streets in Brazil as well, it wasn't something that was hidden, like just walking by the street with, my mom or and then I would just see, a man beating up a woman, and I was just like, oh my God, nobody's doing anything. Like, what's going on, And I felt like the savior kind of a thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, it hardened me. It hardened me to protect my heart, I guess, or protect my. It took my childhood away, I would say, because
Hmm.
I was always acting as an adult, like trying to protect my mom. When my mom separated from my dad, she also got into other relationships where, the man beat her again and I had to save her. And I was like 9, 10 years old.
Hmm.
So it was hard. And but I told myself that I would never let any man touch me physically ever.
Hmm.
So that never happened. But what happened is that I didn't see was the psychological abuse, right? Because the psychological abuse is something that's very subtle. Like
Hmm.
as a child, you can, when you get hit, when you see violence physical, it's obvious to the eye. But when it So yeah, I think that being in that toxic environment, when you have physical abuse, you can physically see it with your eyes. But when you have mental abuse, you don't know what it is, right? So I was psychologically abused, my mom, and so I only learned that what was psychological abuse after, right? So for me, that was all normalized. So as a child, it's really hard um, to go through that because you internalize everything, right? And you use it um, to protect you against it. But then when you don't know what abuse is, What psychological abuse is, that's when you start that whole toxic cycle again. So you start
Hmm.
growing up, and then I started having, relationships, and that's where I was psychologically abused and didn't know. But my eyes were just wide open for physical. If anybody
Hmm.
touches me, if anybody touches me, for me, that was like, that's it. I'm ready, to defend myself. But when it came down to psychological abuse, I
Hmm.
totally fell in it every single time. And that was due to that childhood that, I've lived through that, and it got normalized through the time, unfortunately.
Hmm. You say you have to mature very early, like almost checking if everything is okay. Do I need to prepare myself emotionally for something that is coming up? And I think children don't only hear what adults say, they feel also the tension in between.
Oh,
They feel
yeah.
the unpredictability and they notice everything like silence, like stress, like emotional distance. And I think that is something a lot of adults carry quietly with
Oh,
them
yeah.
and experiencing these during their childhood. And I think a lot of listeners maybe can recognize that feeling somewhere. You already mentioned it a little bit, but how did those experiences shape the way you saw and see friendships and relationships later?
That's a good question. So as a child, I always felt like I needed to control everything.
Hmm.
Like I needed to protect. I was a protector. I was the child. I was the person that had to be the responsible one, the person who took care of
Hmm.
things. And when my parents they separated for the first time, I'm the one that told my mom pretty much, Mom, you gotta go. Like you have to separate. I mean, a 9-year-old that tells that you have to separate from my dad because you're not happy. That's where she got the strength to go through with it. And but I think I never really thought of me, since I was a kid. I was always like in that, how can I protect? How can I help? How can I? And so that also followed me through um, uh, my adulthood, my teenager years when I came to Canada, having to have friends. My friends always looked to me as the person who was the designated driver, the responsible one. I would never let go of like things. I would never fully just like relax. I was always like stressed out, stressed out. I need to control, like in the control freak
Hmm.
way. And I think that that also it's like I had everything, was I had to do it. I had to take care of it.
Hmm.
And that came from my mom, who, like you were mentioning before, as a child, she had a really rough childhood. So she kind of didn't want me to go through that childhood. So she kind of protected me against my dad. And then my dad tried to be rough with me so that he can bring up a daughter that was like independent, but at the same time, due to his hard childhood, um, he didn't let me make mistakes. So that took my
Hmm.
confidence away. So, every time I would do anything, I would always have to ask him, is it okay? Is it okay? And if ever I made a mistake, I was like, you know? And so that took a lot of my confidence away. So it was like too extreme. It was a mix of my dad being
Hmm.
super strict and then my mom being super lenient and trying to protect me. And so that made me grow up very confused because I had no identity. I
Hmm.
didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to deal with things without my parents. Like I couldn't cut the umbilical cord, and and my friend and in my friends, I saw my friends as family because again, when I like I mentioned in my blog, like I grew up in a very um, secluded um, family because my dad, when I was 4 years old, there was like some issues with the family and everybody dispersed. So I was always alone. So I was always seeking. I always wanted to have a big family, big
You
family, big
wanted to
family.
belong, right?
I wanted that, right? So when I would have friends, for me, like, they were my everything, but at the same time, like, that's not how it works really, right? Like, they have their
Mm.
family, they don't see it's not like a, it's not something that because you do, they are going to do too. So anyways, so when I came to Canada, I lost all my friends, so I had to restart my my
Hmm.
life here. That was really hard because I didn't speak any language. I was alone. I found I didn't have any siblings, and having to have people speak with me in the language that I didn't speak French, I didn't speak English. People spoke to me in Spanish, but I didn't speak Spanish. I spoke Portuguese, and like it was hard. Eventually, I started making friends, and again, for me, I always gave everything, everything. And my dad, he was always very loner, alone. And he was always like, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. People are taking advantage of you. People are taking advantage of you. And that always stayed in my head. But as a teenager, you rebel, right? So I rebelled a lot, and I was not in the bad sense rebel, but in the rebellion kind of like I didn't want to listen to what he had to say. He had something to say, I would always try to do something else, just to like
Mhm.
do my own way. All of that. I grew up as an adult, and that was really into that mindset. And it took me years to understand that and find that out.
Hmm. I think that is so vulnerable that you are sharing this right now. And I think it takes a long, long journey to really recognize that parents are always doing their best,
Yes,
what they can
a hundred
do
percent.
in this particular moment. That
Exactly.
is probably not that what you want to experience, but for them, it's everything they can give in this moment. And to really try to let go of the control is a really, really hard way and
Mm,
really hard journey to be on. And you mentioned it already. Then your life changed a lot dramatically with the move to Canada. And you already told it's not easy to start new in a new country. You probably tried to belong somewhere. You mentioned it. It was really the language barrier and everything you have to go through. And that's not easy. But I know from your blog and from our conversation before, you had a really, really good friend
yes.
in Canada really
Yeah.
early. And she was probably a little bit of your safe place because you could be who you are with her. And that was a
A hundred
really,
percent.
really, really important person in your life. And that you felt like you belong somewhere. And that is beautiful that you have this amazing experience. And what does belonging mean to you today? If you look back at all these experiences.
That's good. Yeah, so like you said, it was very hard, but I think I've been very blessed because throughout this whole chaotic experiences of my life, it's like I've been very blessed with little angels here and there. And now, if I look back in my life and I analyze it, and if let's just say I would be speaking to a younger me, let's just say in that
Hmm.
sense, I would just say, you know what, trust the process, because
Hmm.
it it has led me to the woman that I am today, which I'm very proud of. Um, I've been through a lot, um, and I'm very humbled by the fact that God has put so many angels in my life to guide me along the way. And it's the hardship that it took. Like, it was hard coming to Canada. It was hard restarting, but that hard brought me my best friend. My best friend, she has been my foundation, my go-to, my ride
Mm.
or die, let's just say. My um she has been there for me through my ups and downs, through my I mean, like we lived so much together, you know? And you know, it's I can't say that, you know, if I didn't come to Canada, I wouldn't have met her, you know? So yes, it was hard, but that was a beautiful thing that, you know, the heart, it was a downer to then go to up, and we lived
Oh,
great things together. And I'm not gonna say like, you know, it was not just her, you know, I mean, because of her, obviously, we lived the best years of our lives, but we also had, you know, rough times too. Like she was there for me when I went through my separation. She was there for me while I went through all my hardships in that relationship. She never judged me, you know, like she was like a little angel really much in my life. She was my sister that I always searched for and seeked for. And unfortunately, she passed away 2 years ago. Um, so she passed away January 2nd, 2024. Um, and, you know, again, that was a hard, that was really hard.
yeah.
That was not
With
easy.
that loss, I think it was so beautiful how you talked about her. And it was so beautiful that you found a friend like her where you could truly count on. That is really beautiful to have this. And with that loss in 2024, I can only imagine the grief you had you
Yeah.
had to experience and the question of why this happened to you again, something so dramatic, and why this you have to experience this journey and the long journey of healing afterwards. How were you able to handle this time of grief and this experience, because it was not the first difficult situation you had to go through?
Yeah, because the first was, oh, I mean, one of the first was when I separated. She was there for me, thank God, you know, but 2 years after my separation, she passed away, you know, and but again, like looking back right now, you know, sometimes we don't see it when we're in it. When we're in it, we're going through the
Mm,
process. We're angry. We are asking God, why me? Why did you do that? Why do I deserve that? I'm such a good person. I've never done harm to anyone. My friend never done harm to anyone. She's the most beautiful human ever. Why her? Why this? And obviously, you ask yourself all these questions, right? I mean, it's
absolutely.
normal. I would hope that you do, you know, but um, it's the grief. I find that you need to go through the grief. You need,
Mm.
and I remember when the day that it happened, um, I was a wreck. And the same day I had to go just take all my strength and just start handling all the paperwork and stuff like that because she passed away overseas. And so we had to bring the
Oh,
body back and the whole thing. So it was very hard. I had to go. So her family was all with her. And so the fact that we had to bring her back here, um, it was me and another friend that we were taking care of paperwork and whatnot. And I had to go physically to the, the, the funeral home to, you know, and that day I couldn't get in. I couldn't go in the funeral home. Every time I stepped in, I cried, I cried, I cried. I was shaking. I couldn't. I'm like, "I- when would I ever think that today I would be going into this place to organize my best friend's, uh, you know, ceremony or funeral? Uh, it was really, really hard. Like, just thinking about it, it brings back really awful memories. And then I had to say it to my kids because my kids, well, she was their godmother. So that was hard too, having to explain that to them. You know, they were they were 9 and 5 at the time. And so that was hard as well. But again,
Hmm.
going back to that day, and looking back now, I know it was really hard. And during that time, so it took about a week and a half for her body to be back ish. But during that time, me and this other friend, we were doing everything that we could, whatnot, and we went to her apartment to clean it up and to have everything ready for when the family would come back. They wouldn't have to do anything; they would just be able to grieve and just be together. Um, but I was crying so much, and this
Oh,
friend goes to me, she's like, Helena, you you have to get yourself together. Like you can't cry like that. And I was just like, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I was so upset because I was like, how am I not allowed to grieve? So I look back now and I'm like, no, I'm so happy that I did grieve. I did cry. I screamed. I was angry. I did everything that I could. And even though I tried to hold myself together for her family, they knew I was grieving as much as they were, And so you should never tell anybody how to grieve. That is something that is
absolutely.
like unthinkable. Like you can't even no, everybody has the right to grieve on their way. If they're silent, that's their way. If they're happy, if they're I mean, not happy, but I mean if they're crying, if they're sad, whatever feeling, angry, whatever feeling you have, you're allowed to have it and you should have it because it's yours. You're going through that process. So I'm looking back, I'm really glad that I didn't let that stop me from grieving. And I grieved. I grieved. I grieved. And looking back now, I'm glad because I grieved, it's an emptiness that's going to stay in my heart forever. I'm not going to say it's easy. Um, but because I grieved, I can now see the lesson and I
Hmm.
understand why she had to go. And I understand because she has brought us all together, me and her family. Because when she passed away, again, I was always alone. She was my family for me, right? And I didn't think her family would see me this way. So having that, she left me her family because her family just, they opened their arms to me as in, like, you are part of our family. Like, you're not going anywhere. And that touched me so much because I felt like I was alone again. I lost my pillar. I lost my girl, my best friend, and I'm alone again. And thank God, she left me the family, and her son and her daughter and, her sister and I were now super close. And we celebrate Christmas in the house every year since, and it's like we're really, really close. And we're just together. We build each other. And ever since she passed away, she has brought us closer to God and closer to faith.
That is so beautiful,
Seriously.
Helena. Thank you so much for sharing this. I think you shared some really great lessons. One of the lessons you shared right now is that grief is totally personal. Like everything, we have the right to be on our
Yes,
individual journey and to grieve how we have to grieve. That can be different. That
100%.
is really a great learning for every listener, that we have to be ourselves and embrace our way of handling things. And the other thing you shared with me right now that is really beautiful was that you could find a gift in this situation, like the gift of true belonging. Is this right?
Yes,
Like
100%.
the difference between, there is such a difference between belonging on the one hand
Yeah,
and fitting in on the other hand. Fitting in always takes something from us. Like we have to adapt. We have to be a certain way. We have to find out and control or something. But true
yeah,
belonging is like letting our soul breathe. And that is so
yes.
beautiful. And that gift is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this, Helena. That is
Yes, yes.
Absolutely
And
beautiful.
honestly, I tell this with all my heart is that whoever is listening to this and is going through a tough situation, um, just don't give up. Just understand
Mm,
that it's tough for a reason, and you don't have the understanding as to why, but just have faith that there is a why, and you will understand later on. So just go through every second, if it has to be every second, every hour, do whatever that it takes. Seek assistance, seek a person that is, helping, trustworthy. There's so many resources everywhere that's available with the internet now, right? But most of all, do not adapt to anybody's circumstances, but be yourself. Because if I would have adapted to that circumstance, I don't think I would have learned everything I learned and withholding my grief and not showing and my vulnerability. No, I had to show my vulnerability, and
mm.
this is who I am. And by being who I am, I was accepted. In her new family, not in her new family, but like the family that was hers, that, they accepted me with open arms, and I love them to death.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. At some point, like you said, in life, survival turns into reflection. And eventually, reflection turns into understanding. And that is the lesson
Yeah.
we have. It's beautiful that you started your blog and that you have a bigger why, like sharing this experience with other people. And my question is, because I think many people go through it, was starting your blog emotionally scary for you in the first place?
Oh, 100%. So much. Oh my God. Yes. So much that it took me my whole life to do it. 100%. I mean, with all honesty, I mean, like, Katya, we met each other like, I think it was about 2 years ago. And you know that I've been wanting to do something for so long. And it
Absolutely.
took me so many lessons, so much. And again, all of that had to do with my self-confidence, right? So, the fact that again, I'm bringing back to my childhood, but like the fact that in my childhood I had so much happening that took my self confidence away, rebuilding, reparenting myself to get to where I am today. And again, I'm still doing it. I'm still continuing because it's a forever lesson, it's hard. And so, but it's, I have to say the reason why I started now, I can't, I can't imagine or lie or make up stuff. It's really because of my faith. I really have gone through the past 6 months through a really hard time, a very much depression, anxiety, um, everything, a burnout. Like I was just a mess. And I had, my friend, who's my best friend's sister. So she's been going to church for a long time, and I would go every now and then and whatnot. But for whatever reason, I started going a little bit more often, and then I started just really opening up. And then we started this call in the morning where we would just be about 10 girls on the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning, reading Proverbs from the Bible. And I was just like, eh, okay. I never read the Bible. It's really hard. I don't really understand. Maybe somebody can explain to me because I don't get it. And it was that. It was, I'm not going to lie. Like, I can't say it was anything else than that. Just my understanding and having that community of people that are in the right path, you know? It doesn't necessarily need to be the Bible. I mean, if you're not someone that believes or whatever, but being surrounded by people that are at another level and the level that you want to be at, you know?
Mm.
So, again, like I know that a lot of people don't believe in the Bible, but it does say that if you surround yourself with people that are not, I'll just give an example like this. I don't know how to quote the Bible. I'm not good at that thing, but I'm saying you probably heard this. When you hang around with four people that are going the wrong way, you're going to
Mm,
be the fifth one. But if you are hanging around with four
exactly.
people that are business people or people that you want to be like, if it's an architect, if it's psychologists, if it's doctors, if it's successful people, if you surround yourself with them, you're going to be the fifth one, right? So this
Exactly.
is what it takes. It starts with cutting your toxic environment, and then you need to do a little bit of um, walk alone. You need to walk
Mm,
alone. You need to be alone for a little while. Because if you're always the noise, the noise, the noise, the noise, phone, distraction, you need to be alone with yourself and really get down to questions like, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you like? Get back to you. And that's how I came to do the blog because I said, I've gone through so much. I think that writing what I've been through and it might help other people that are going through the same thing and offering them the possibility to be an ear, because I offer, like I'm like, if you need anything, just write to me and we can chat, and whatever. I'm open. I have no problem with that, because my fulfillment is to see that through my experience, like nobody's experience is the same. Every person goes through
absolutely.
different hardships. And maybe mine is not that bad compared to others that have been abused, have been, in toxic environments, have been through so much. But use that and
Mm,
be vulnerable and share because through your story, you might be helping a child that is not
absolutely.
understanding what they're going through right now and sees, okay, this person as a child went through what I'm going through. And if they're okay, I'll be okay. Let's just push through with it.
Mm. You shared so many amazing things right now. Like one of the things that stand out for me was surround yourself with like-minded people because we become what we surround ourselves with. I think that is a really big truth. I think we have to be really responsible for our choices we make. The people we surround ourselves with can make or break our future because
100%.
of our choices, not because they are bad people or something, but probably they are not aligned. That is the thing, and not aligned
Yeah,
with our personal values. And I think that is a beautiful story. And
100%.
I think what I really appreciate is that you said not everyone probably can connect to going to church, but everyone is searching for something. And if you have
Yes,
the right community around yourself, you will grow and flourish instead of being pulled down into something you don't want to be. And that is something that
100%.
is really important to acknowledge in life. Thank you so much. That
100%.
is such a big truth, in my opinion. Everyone can learn from such experiences. And I think everyone is someone who has a story. And someone is waiting for exactly this story. And therefore, it's amazing that you share your personal story. And you said in the beginning that you were scared. And I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
all are scared for something because stepping into the unknown is the thing that is scary. But on the other hand, this has not to be a big roadblock. It
No.
can become something we are curious about. We get into a new adventure, and that can be the most amazing experience we have in our lives. We have to be courageous to do something
Yes.
that is nourishing our soul, and that is
I
amazing.
mean, what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I'll be super honest with you. Like, I didn't expect to just do a blog and be like, oh my God, I'm going to help a million people. It's like, if I can help one person, One person, I'm good. This is great, you know? It's like you don't
And
have to
this
put
one
and putting that
person,
pressure on you. Pressure on you has to be perfect, it has to be this, it has to be that. It has to be you, just you.
and this one person you mentioned, that can be the compound effect. Because
Yes.
this one person probably will be the one who inspire the next person, and so on.
I think that we are all here and we are all unique. And
Mm,
nobody goes through the same thing and nobody deals with the same thing or the same way as somebody else. So, having to be vulnerable and sharing is really beautiful because, you never know who you can help. And it's
mm,
so crazy. It can be like you can be a cashier and you can make somebody else's life better just because you're smiling at them. And just because you did a smile, you acknowledge that person, the person's like, they go through another path and they just find themselves. Or like you never know, you can change someone's life through your experience. You haven't gone, you didn't go through everything you did for nothing. That is something very important to know.
yeah, absolutely. Helena, by facing so many challenges and obstacles throughout your life, the question comes up for me: what is needed to strengthen the mindset of the younger generation? Let me ask you some deep dive questions where we can probably focus on this. First of all, what is something that you didn't learn that you wish you learned earlier in life that could help young people?
Um, it's identifying in my life what I should stand up for.
Ooh.
Let's just say, in a way, because I was very psychologically abused, I didn't know, was I exaggerating? And for me, it was so much of a people pleasing, people pleasing all the time because the self confidence wasn't there. I didn't know if I was doing it right. And so maybe if someone else abused me, it was my fault. And so I should change. So, like, knowing that, first of all, identifying what it is, the psychological abuse, that would have been great. And learning
Okay.
to stand up for myself and allowing
Oh,
to say no, allowing to say
like
no.
setting clear boundaries.
Boundaries. Oh, yes.
Personally think a good way of find your way of setting boundaries is knowing your values.
It's so important to early on know what your value is and know that you are here for a reason. You are important. You are
Mm.
precious. You are amazing. You are smart. You can do anything you want. And yes, you will have a lot of people that are going to put you down. And the more people put you down, the more you are in the right path because you are disturbing. And if you are disturbing, then you are going the right path. And so it's so important, so, so, so important to really have that mindset of, if people are putting you down, would that be something logical? Like, think about it. Like, I know a lot of people that they don't believe in God, but I think that way. Would God ever tell me that I am nothing? No, he loves me. He would never tell me that. So that's somebody else. And that somebody else is what? Is the person that wants to make me fail. Do I listen to that person that wants to make me fail? No. Right? Am I a loser? Would God ever tell me I'm a loser? No, he loves me. He would never say that. So who's saying that? Someone else that wants to see me fail. I'm not gonna listen to that.
Like,
So
don't
your
shrink
thoughts are
yourself,
very
right?
toxic. Yes, your thoughts are very toxic. So you need to wash these thoughts,
Mm.
right? And a lot of kids that go through really bad traumas, they have these voices in their head from their abusers. And
Mm.
so they need to clean it out because it doesn't belong to them. It's not them. They are
Mm.
beautiful. They are strong. they are amazing and they have a huge future in front of them if only they clean their thoughts and put the real thoughts of love inside
Mm.
and value themselves.
It's important to learn that we don't have to shrink ourselves to be loved,
Yeah.
that we don't have to shrink ourselves to be appreciated. It only shows us which people are good for ourselves and where we have to set our boundaries. And let me ask you another question about learnings. What have you learned about strength that surprised you?
Surprised. Oh my God. That I have learned. Um, oh my God. Honestly, it's crazy. It's crazy. I can't even understand. I look at my life now and I'm like, what? If I would have looked at my life 20 years ago and I would have said, this is where you're gonna be, never would I've thought. I am so strong. I didn't even know I had this strength within me. I mean, from from I think I learned this through my separation. Through my separation, I learned because had to I had to so I'll quickly explain to you. I had a house with my ex, and so I had to separate. So we had to sell the house. He didn't want to sell the house, and so whatever circumstances happened, it took a year and a half to finally find someone to buy my part. So I had to look for a new house. I had to move to a new house. So I bought a house. I bought a house. I'm like, what? Me? I did that? What? That's crazy. I changed jobs. I changed positions within the bank. I was doing a completely new job that I like at the same time. I bought my house, separated, started a new job. I had my cake business on the side. I was with my two kids, single mom, zero help, far away from my mom because my mom was living like an hour away from me. Had to drive every single day 100 kilometers to bring my son to daycare and come back. Um, I had to go through snowstorms. I had to go through, car issues, house issues. I had to go through so much depression, um, pressure at work. And I'm like, I look at myself and I'm like, wait. And then my best friend that passed away. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, what? No wonder I'm burned out. But I did it. And now I understand that I don't have control on anything. And so my strength
Absolutely.
is no longer mine, is above. That's how I am strong. And that's what I learned.
Wow. That you are capable of more than you ever thought.
I didn't know what I was capable of. And I know that there's so
Yeah.
much in front of me, ahead of me, that I still have to go through. So to get to where I want to be, and I'm like really excited about it. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
And given all that I've been through, I know that I'll be okay. I know that I'm going to be okay.
That is amazing. If someone is listening right now to our conversation and still feels stuck, what would you want them to know?
This is really good because when you feel stuck, it just means that you are in the process. So
Mm,
sometimes you think that you are stuck. You need to stop and listen. Sometimes, and I've seen that so many times. So I have another friend of mine that she has a business. Uh, she's a personal trainer. Uh, she is so good at what she does, and she felt stuck. That she was like, so successful, but things like she felt like she was stuck. She's like, what's going on? Like I can't. And I'm like, I think you just need to stop. Because sometimes we feel stuck because we're trying to control everything. We're trying to take control of everything. And it's like, no, no way. You need to just stop. You don't have the control of everything. Things will happen. And life is about you knowing how to ride when it happens. It's like a wave, right? The wave is going to crash. You need to know how to ride it so
Absolutely.
that you don't drown, right? So it's so important. If you feel stuck, don't give up. Continue. Consistency is the way. You need to continue
Absolutely.
and you need to stop and listen. Continue, when I mean continue, is like, don't just like give up. And when I mean stop, is just stop trying to control everything and listen. Listen to what life is telling, because your life is talking to you. Things are happening around you. And you're just sometimes so focused on one specific thing that you don't see everything else around you. And you don't see how there's so many other doors that are opening. And maybe that specific door that you're really going at is not the right door. So just stop, listen, analyze, look at where you've been, look at all
Hmm.
the trajectory that you've walked, the path that you walked on. Look at all the the ups and downs that you've been with. Take a moment, write it down if you have to, you know, and get yourself that mindset of, okay, I've been through all of this. Did I miss something? Am I maybe feeling like stuck because this specific thing that I want is not happening? Maybe I should try to do another in another perspective. Maybe I'm missing the lesson of that specific event that's going on right now in my life. So stop to observe and stop trying to control everything and just keep believing in yourself that you're going to get through this. Everything passes. Nothing is here forever. See, my best friend passed away. The world is still going on. I used to cry every single day. Now I'm going to cry a little bit less, you know? And with time, it's going to
Hmm.
be a bit less and bit less. Grief goes away. Love changes. Work changes. Everything changes. So you need to just focus on one thing, you know, and just continue, stop, listen, continue on your path. And if it's changing perspective, changing how you're seeing things, being grateful for everything. Sometimes we're not grateful too, eh? Sometimes we're just like, oh, I want this, I want this. Okay, but look at everything you have.
Hmm.
Take a pause. Take a moment to just breathe. Let's look at everything I have. Look at everything I accomplished. I'm so grateful. And as soon as you start being grateful for everything that you've had, everything that you've accomplished, trust me, things are going to flow. You're going to be unstuck. Because sometimes, like I said, sometimes you're stuck because you're just trying to go. And so that friend of mine, I told her, listen, just relax. Stop working. Just one day, take the day off and just think about what you have to do. And she started thinking, analyzing, doing, breathing. And it took her maybe like a week. And she was like, boom. And then she started going boom, 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 boom. And she saw her path again. And that happened to me too. You know, I
Hmm.
felt stuck for years in my life, you know, and it happened.
Hmm.
But you should never give up.
Amazing insights, Helena. I think there are so many beautiful things you shared. First of all, I think one major insight is the only constant is change because life is always changing.
Always.
It's learning, like you said, it's beautifully surfing the waves because it's always an up and down in life, and being constant and
Yeah.
stepping forward and embracing things we can't change in our life. That is really tough to do, to be honest. But on the other hand, it's the way of experience life. And I think that is something to learn that is really profound. So thank you so much for your thoughts, for your insights, for your amazing reflections. And I personally think that we are all on this lifelong journey of evolving and developing and experiencing life and growing, hopefully. So
Yeah.
there
Oh,
are so
yeah.
many lessons, and we are nearly at the end of this episode today. But before you leave, Helena, I want to ask you some short and quick questions so that my listeners can get to know you a little bit better. It's more the fun
Yes.
part of the
All right. Let's
interview.
do it.
What's I'm a huge quote lover. Everyone who knows me
Mm.
knows that about me. So I always ask my guests, "What is your favorite quote and why?"
So yeah, so let your faith be bigger than your fear. Um, you need to know that fear doesn't belong to you. It's not
Mm,
ours. It's not ours. It doesn't belong to you. You can do anything you want, but fear sometimes blocks us from advancing,
mm,
from doing so many beautiful things. And I heard this on a podcast one time. If you block yourself from sharing your story, from being vulnerable, from sharing your talent with other people, you know how many people you are blocking from continuing and finding themselves because they need you. They need you.
absolutely.
And so you're so fearful, like you're so scared of, oh, what others gonna think, what this person's gonna think, what that person's gonna think. Who cares? Think about all the other
Mm,
people that are waiting on you to share what you have, your gift,
absolutely.
and change their lives. So yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. Next question. What is something about yourself that you hope will never change?
What is something about myself that I hope it never changes? My vulnerability.
Oh,
Just
that's a good one.
how,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I agree. That is amazing. That is
Definitely.
a good answer. Next question. If you could eliminate one weakness or limitation in your life, what would it be?
When we get a limitation in my life, I think it would be the fear, because
Oh,
I can't lie. Me too. I have those fears of
everyone.
taking that. It's something that I work on every single day. So if I could eliminate fear from my life, that would be amazing.
If it were possible, what superhero superpower would you want to have and why?
Oh, what superhero superpower would I have and why? Um, I think I would want to have the healing power.
Oh, that is
Healing
beautiful.
power. So I can, heal. But then again, like if I think about it, if I'm a healer, um, a little bit like a healer, not to make people forget about what they've been through,
Mm.
but kind of like give them a little bit of a boost as to, if I can help them heal, uh, whatever trauma they've been through, and like see the lesson. You know what I mean? See the lesson
Oh,
through,
that is
kind of a
that
thing.
is that is a huge difference. I think I like this because
Yes,
you don't want to remove the lessons from people, right?
yes, that's it. Yes, exactly. So just I would wish that I would be able to make them see what the lesson is so they can then move
Oh,
on.
oh, that
Yes.
is amazing. Wow. Next question. That if
Tell me.
you could rule the world for one day, what would you do?
If I could rule the world for one
For
day,
one
what would I
day.
do?
It's not it's a short amount of time, I know. But if you had
Yes.
one day and you could rule the world, what would you do?
I would share the word with the entire world and make them see how beautiful God
Oh,
is.
that is beautiful.
Yeah, I would hope. I know there's a lot of people that are lost, and uh, seeing how God has worked in my life. Um, I've always been a believer in God, but never really the way I am right now.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of people in the world that need faith, that need the faith to get out of where they are, to continue and to thrive. So yeah, if I could rule the world, I would do that.
Thank you so much, Helena, for your honesty,
Thank you.
for your reflection, for your openness today. I'm so grateful that you have given me the greatest treasure of your life, your time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it was awesome to meet you. It was awesome to have you on my podcast today. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you about such topics. And I think this conversation will resonate deeply with many people because there is a lot of learnings inside this conversation. And maybe that's also the reminder of today's episode that awareness is not weakness, vulnerability is not weakness, sensitivity is not weakness. And healing
100%.
often begins the moment we finally are safe enough to understand ourselves better and be compassionate with ourselves. And I think such conversations matter because they remind us that emotional awareness doesn't begin in adulthood, because children are watching, children are feeling,
Oh yeah.
children are learning what love is, what safety is, what kindness
Yeah.
is, how to handle specific situations, how to handle struggles, challenges, how to overcome failures. And maybe that's exactly why I'm saying so often, if we want to see our kids to win in life, we have to show them how. I'm so grateful that you be a part of this episode today. Thank you so, so much for
Thank
being my
you.
guest, Helena.
It's been a huge pleasure. Thank you so much. And I hope if I can help one person, then my day has been made.
Ah, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Soul Time. I'm very grateful because you have given me the greatest treasure of your life, your time. If you enjoyed this episode, click the subscribe button so that you get a notification every time a new episode is out.